Derwent River near Hobart in Tasmania was the venue for the 1971 World Championship for Dragon-class yachts. The Dragon was designed in 1928 as a Scandinavian family racing class, but has since developed into a specialised racing yacht. It was selected as an Olympic class in 1948 and has become one of the most highly competitive classes in one design yachting. Yachts from 6 countries were shipped to Hobart for the championship. The United Kingdom was represented by Jane and Jerboa too. A lone Swedish entry, debutante. New Zealand had a team of 3, and from the United States there was Caprice and a local chartered yacht, Sari. The Japanese had Lotus and 2 chartered boats with Alexia and Reluctant. Denmark was represented by Brit, Bermuda by Bermudiana 2, and Australia's team of 3 was Cynthia 2, Wayuna and Adios 2. The Navy provided the starting boat HMAS Bass, and with a steady breeze of about 13 knots, all was in readiness for the 16 yachts and the commencement of the first heat. The fleet split on the first 2-mile windward leg, with Amanda and Debutante making a long starboard tack. However, no advantage was gained in the steady breeze, and it was Caprice from the United States that was first round the windward mark. Smoke was used to indicate the position of the apex mark, but in the light breeze there was not much change in the order on the first shy spinnaker leg. Nearing the first leeward mark, Amanda ran through to windward and established a slight lead over Caprice, Cynthia and Adios. On the second beat, Amanda and Caprice held a long port tack, while Adios and Cynthia went to starboard. Brit played safe and worked the middle, and picking the slight wind shifts, she managed to be first round the mark, just ahead of Amanda. Debutante was going exceptionally well on this beat and rounded in 3rd place with Caprice close astern. After an uneventful run to the leeward mark, Brit carefully covered her opponents in the final beat and went on to win the first heat. Amanda sailed consistently to get 2nd place, 22 seconds behind Brit. Third was Debutante, only 24 seconds behind Amanda. Skies were overcast for the commencement of the second heat, which started with a light southeasterly of about 10 knots. J22, Lotus from Japan, got the best of the start with Alexia slightly astern and Jane from the United Kingdom just to windward. Cynthia, Sari and Jerboa, however, hung onto a starboard tack and worked well into the east, hoping for an easterly shift. But it was Axel Holm with Brit who had again sailed a middle course and was first round well in front of Adios and Barca del Oro. The second windward beat saw Caprice, who had taken a long starboard tack, come from 4th position to round the mark ahead of Brit, Adios, Sari and Barca del Oro. Adios, holding a better breeze, ran past Brit and made up some ground on Caprice. Halfway up the final beat, Don Cohen failed to cover Norm Booth, and when they crossed tacks near the finish, Adios successfully lee-bowed Caprice and went on to win by 8 seconds. The third heat started with a southeasterly breeze of about 12 knots. Lotus, in the middle of the line, got the best of the start. Shortly after the start, Caprice was involved with a port and starboard and consequently retired. The wind eased on the first beat, and Brit was first round, followed by Adios and Sari. Then a close group of boats led by Jerboa and Debutante. Adios could not get through Brit and remained 7 seconds behind at the apex mark. There was a considerable wind shift during the second spinnaker run, and this enabled Sari to pass Adios just before the leeward mark. Brit increased her lead on the beat, but Adios had now sailed into second place at the expense of Sari. Debutante was sailing well and was not far behind in 4th place. There was no change on the final run, and Brit looked set for her second win when she rounded 17 seconds ahead of Adios. But with excellent windward sailing, Norm Booth managed to sail through Axel Holm's lee, and then followed one of the most exciting tacking duels of the series. While this private duel was in progress, Debutante was getting a beautiful lift on her port tack and looked dangerous. Booth recognised this and did not cover Brit when she tacked under his lee. Adios crossed Debutante and then laid the inner end of the line on her port tack, 15 seconds ahead of Brit, who just held off the fast-finishing Debutante. A light variable breeze caused several postponements for the start of Heat 4. The fleet finally got away 1¼ hours late with a southerly breeze of about 4 knots. Anticipating a slight westerly shift, most boats worked the westerly shore, and this was to pay dividends for Caprice, Brit, and especially Wayuna, who rounded the first mark well clear of the others. Caprice was second round, followed by Marbrit, Lotus, Jane and Adios. Marbrit sailed past to windward of Lotus, and Caprice, who sailed a leeward course, dropped back to 5th position. John Cuneo was sailing magnificently in the light breeze and had increased his lead to over 1 minute at the apex mark. Wayuno went further ahead on the second windward beat, and again, working the western shore, rounded well clear of the rest of the fleet. Lotus was sailing well in second place, just ahead of Marbrit. But there was no stopping Wayuno. John Cuneo dictated his own terms and went on to win by 2 minutes and 43 seconds. The Japanese entrant, Lotus, was a creditable second, and Marbrit 39 seconds away in third spot. Caprice, however, got a perfect start in Heat 5. Marbrit and Aotearoa were forced onto the green mark and had to restart. Wayuno was first to tack onto port, but she appeared to be well to leeward when the rest of the fleet came about. Caprice maintained her initial advantage and was first round the windward mark. Adios was in second position at this stage, but the breeze was dying as the boats approached the apex mark. An almost flat calm then prevailed, and the race virtually started again from this point. Debutante was first to pick up a light southwesterly, and she established a handy lead over the 3 New Zealand boats, with Caprice and Adios at the rear of the fleet. At the windward mark for the second time, Debutante led from Aotearoa and Amanda. Adios was back in 6th position. An approaching thunderstorm was imminent as Debutante rounded the final leeward mark. Within seconds, a violent 50-knot rain squall hit the fleet. Visibility was down to about 50 yards, and several yachts were fortunate not to swamp in the initial blasts. Yachts had to use their compasses for the final hectic run towards the finish. Debutante came out of the darkness and crossed the line 46 seconds ahead of Wayuno, who had sailed brilliantly on this final run. Amanda was third and Aotearoa fourth, in a race of mixed fortunes. In the strongest breeze of the series, the 6th heat was started with Debutante at the buoy end and Marbrit at the starboard end of the line in a very ragged start. Southerly breeze of about 35 knots fully tested crew and boats on the first beat. Norm Booth, who at this stage was joint overall leader with Marbrit and Debutante, unfortunately suffered a broken spreader when nearing the mark and had to retire. Debutante was handling the conditions better than anybody and rounded in first place well clear of Caprice. Caprice was first to set her spinnaker, but Debutante followed suit immediately, and when she jibed at the apex mark, was even further ahead. followed Wayuna, Jane, Amanda, Marbrit, Baca del Oro and Jerboa in 8th position. On the third leg, Wayuna passed Caprice, but from then on, the leading boats maintained their positions during the 4th and 5th legs, and when Debutante came on to win for the final beat, she had a commanding lead of almost 5 minutes over Wayuna. After a long, hard slog to windward, Debutante crossed the line to win the 6th heat and put herself in a very strong position to take out the championship. John Cuneo held off Caprice to take 2nd place, 39 seconds ahead of the American boat. New Zealand's Robert Stewart sailed Amanda to a creditable 4th position. Marbrit had been struggling in the strong breeze all day, but managed to get 5th place, just ahead of David Young in J. The final heat, and the fleet get away to a good start in a southeasterly of about 20 knots. Adios and Amanda, starting near the inner end of the line, got away well and kept on their starboard tack towards the eastern shore. For Debutante, to miss the world title, she would have to finish worse than 5th in this final heat, and Adios, Marbrit or Wayuna could take it out by winning. Halfway up the leg, Adios sailed ahead, and Norm Booth was evidently going all out for the title. At the weather mark, he had a handy 30-second lead from Amanda, closely followed by Debutante. Shy spinnaker leg produced no changes in positions, and it was obvious at this stage that Wayuna and Marbrit, who were running 7th and 8th, had the job in front of them if they were to win the title. Caprice had gained a little on Debutante at the leeward mark, but Peter Sunderland had only to maintain his present position to win. During the second beat, however, Debutante got through Amanda to come into 2nd place, behind Adios. As the race progressed, Adios gradually increased her margin, and with excellent spinnaker work downwind and skillfully working the wind shifts on the last beat, she had a margin of 1 minute 16 seconds at the finish. Debutante had her moments of anxiety, as when nearing the finish, a wind shift allowed Bermudiana, Amanda, Marbrit and Wayuna to almost catch her. However, Peter Sunderland confidently withstood the challenge and took 2nd place and the world title. Bermudiana sailed her best race of the series to get 3rd place, and in a tense manoeuvre, Amanda just got there ahead of Marbrit with Wayuna a few seconds away in 6th position. The 1971 World Championship was over, with Sweden's Peter Sunderland and his two brothers winning a close and hard-fought contest.